after this, King Artaxerxes highly honored Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Bulgarian, and exalted him, and set his seat above all his friends. And all in the palace did him obeisance, for so the king had given orders to do. But Mordecai did not do him obeisance. And they in the king's palace said to Mordecai, Mordecai, why dost thou transgress the commands of the king? Thus they spoke daily to him, but he hearkened not unto them. So they represented to Haman that Mordecai resisted the commands of the king, and Mordecai had shown to them that he was a Jew. And when Haman understood that Mordecai did not obeisance to him, he was greatly enraged, and took counsel to destroy utterly all the Jews who were under the rule of Artaxerxes. And he made a decree in the 12th year of the reign of Artaxerxes, and cast lots daily and monthly, to slay in one day the race of Mordecai. And the lot fell on the 14th day of the month, which is Adar. And he spoke to King Artaxerxes, saying, There is a nation scattered among the nations in all thy kingdom, and their laws differ from those of all the other nations, and they disobey the laws of the king. And it is not expedient for the king to let them alone. If it seem good to the king, let him make a decree to destroy them, and I will remit into the king's treasury 10,000 talents of silver. And the king took off his ring, and gave it into the hands of Haman, to seal the decrees against the Jews. And the king said to Haman, Keep the silver, and treat the nation as thou wilt. So the king's recorders were called in the first month on the 13th day, and they wrote as Haman commanded to the captains and governors in every province, from India even to Ethiopia, to 127 provinces, and to the rulers of the nations, according to their several languages, in the name of King Artaxerxes. And the message was sent by posts throughout the kingdom of Artaxerxes, to destroy utterly the race of the Jews on the first day of the 12th month, which is Adar, and to plunder their goods. And the following is the copy of the letter. The great king Artaxerxes writes thus to the rulers and inferior governors of 127 provinces, from India even to Ethiopia, who hold authority under him, ruling over many nations, and having obtained dominion over the whole world. Over the whole world I was minded, not elated by the confidence of power, but ever conducting myself with great moderation and with gentleness, to make the lives of my subjects continually tranquil, desiring both to maintain the kingdom quiet and orderly to its utmost limits, and to restore the peace desired by all men. But when I had inquired of my counselors how this should be brought to pass, Haman, who excels in soundness of judgment among us, and has been manifestly well inclined, without wavering, and with unshaken fidelity, and has obtained the second post in the kingdom, informed us that a certain ill-disposed people is mixed up with all the tribes throughout the world, opposed in their laws to every other nation, and continually neglecting the commands of the kings, so that the united government, blamelessly administered by us, is not quietly established. Having then conceived that this nation alone of all others is continually set in opposition to every man, introducing as a change a foreign code of laws, and injuriously plotting to accomplish the worst of evils against our interests and against the happy establishment of the monarchy. We have accordingly appointed those who are signified to you, the letters written by Haman, who is set over the public affairs and is our second governor, to destroy them all utterly with the wives and children by the swords of the enemies, without pitying or sparing any, on the 14th day of the 12th month Adar of the present year, that the people aforetime and now ill-disposed to us, having been violently consigned to death in one day, may hereafter secure to us continually a well-constituted and quiet state of affairs. And the copies of the letters were published in every province, and an order was given to all the nations to be ready against that day. And the business was hastened, and that at Shushan. And the king and Haman began to drink, but the city was troubled. Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum. Welcome to Esther chapter 3, in which there are 15 verses. This is the commentary portion. In verse 1, a continuous difference of friends versus princes. In verse 4, and these are the friends of the king, not Haman. So they represented to Haman that Mordecai resisted the commands of the king, versus they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand. So basically it's saying in the Septuagint, they informed Haman that Mordecai would not bow down to him, versus they informed Haman to see whether Mordecai would change his behavior. So they informed him with the purposes of determining whether Mordecai would either change his behavior or perhaps whether Mordecai had legal reason to not bow to Haman. So they're investigating this matter. In verse 5, we have a significant difference. It reads, understood. So Haman understood that Mordecai did not bow to him, versus Haman saw firsthand. He saw with his own two eyes. So he learned of this information from a second party in the Septuagint. He did not witness this firsthand, versus he did see with his own two eyes that Mordecai was not bowing down to him. In verse 6, exposition on this verse. Talk about taking things from 0 to 11. Just because one person, Mordecai, one Jewish person, would not bow down to him, Haman said, okay, well, we'll kill them all. And there's an addition of, he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had showed him the people of Mordecai. So that, although, yeah, it says Mordecai had shown to him. So that's kind of a redundancy. In verse 7, an addition of, in the first month, that is the month Nisan or Abib. And a huge difference, there's an omission of to slay in one day the race of Mordecai. Another difference, a big one, another omission, and the lot fell on the 14th of the month, which is Adar. So that means they drew the lot, it occurred on the 14th of Adar. This is the way I'm reading that, because later on we'll see what day that happens to be, versus the 12th month. So it could be that the 14th of the 12th was to be the purging, but as we read the account, we'll see what it actually is. Their laws differ versus diverse. So they are different, not simply a variety or diversity. Verse 10, significant difference, possibly even a big difference or even a huge difference. Depends on your perspective here. This is an omission of to seal the decrees against the Jews. So Haman did seal these decrees. He's the one who sealed it because the king gave his ring to Haman. Haman was to sign the death warrant for all Jews in the kingdom of Persia, under their authority, actually. Not just the country of Persia, but all countries in their jurisdiction. That is very big. Verse 12, an omission of from India, even to Ethiopia. Those countries did exist back in those times. To 127 provinces, an addition of and sealed with the king's ring. So again, there's a detail left out of the Masoretic, even though it says it was sealed with the king's ring, because this can be interpreted, this can be read as the king himself sealed it. No, rather it was in fact Haman who sealed it, according to verse 10 in the Septuagint. In verse 13, we have a huge difference. This is an omission. It says, and the message was sent by posts throughout the kingdom of Artaxerxes to destroy utterly the race of the Jews on the first day of the 12th month, which is Adar. So it was supposed to be done on the first day of the 12th month. So we can see that was the purging day, not the other day, which I previously said, the 14th day. No, it's supposed to be the first day, but it seems to be that the lot was cast on that day. If that makes any sense. You have to kind of map out a timeline and see how does this flow in the sequence of events. And then we have a huge difference, a great omission. The following is the copy of the letter. The great king Artaxerxes writes thus to the rulers, inferior governors to 127 provinces, from India even to Ethiopia, who hold authority under him, ruling over many nations, having obtained dominion of the whole world. I was minded, not elated by the confidence of power, but ever conducting myself with great moderation, with gentleness, to make I'm not going to read it again, people, okay? But basically, it is a very serious edict. The biggest danger of this edict is the king did not have a fact checker. He didn't do his research, his homework, to say, Haman, who are these people you're talking about? He had no idea who this group of people was, this demographic, this people group that Haman was targeting. He did not know. Okay. And they're going to be executed, the people, all the Jewish people, by the swords of their enemies, without pity, on the 14th of the month of the 12th. Okay, you know what? It says the 14th. So here it says the 14th. So it seems this letter was distributed on the first day of the month, of the 12th month. So they had 2 weeks to prepare, or less than 2 weeks. And that's it for this chapter. So that is serious business. I can see why this is such an important event in the history of not just humanity, but especially the Jewish people. And this all connects to the Messiah. Because if they were successful, there would be no Mashiach, Yehoshua. So, wow. Okay, so that's all I have to say for this chapter in this video. Thank you for your time. Until next time, I bid you all Shalom Aleichem, Salamu Alaikum, Eirini Mazisu, Pax Vobiscum. Peace be unto you. Shabbat Shalom, and